Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And now that the loot box contents are finally revealed, it's time for my first tank review of one of the two new Tier 10 reward vehicles that you can get your hands on. This is the BZT-70, and it is now the highest alpha damage on any heavy tank inside World of Tanks. It's 180mm main armament, hits for 850 on its standard rounds, its premium rounds, and 1,200 with its HE rounds. This is very similar to the kind of gun that Wargaming wanted to create a couple of years ago when they first introduced the BZ-75, but they kind of chickened out a little bit at the last stage and then just gave it the 650 alpha. However, that tank would have been focused on primarily the HE rounds. This one with 256 AP pen and 330 heat pen looks very interesting indeed. Will this be the new best tier 10 heavy tank in the game? Well, that's my job to let you know today. So firstly, I must clarify that as it stands, the BZT-70 that you see me play today will be buffed a little bit before you're going to have an opportunity to get your hands on it this Friday inside loot boxes. Its reload time will be changed from a 24-second reload down to a 21-second reload. So that will change the damage per minute of this tank from its current 2,125 up to 2,429. So please take that into account during the entire video today. So there's only one vehicle that I really want to compare the BZT-70 to, and that is the Polish 60TP. Right off the bat, we can see that the alpha damage that the BZT-70 has over that 750 alpha damage of 100, but its reload is only going to be half a second worse than the 60TP. This gives it a big damage per minute advantage of over 200, nearly 250 over the 60TP. And whenever a tank has an alpha damage advantage and a damage per minute advantage, that can be truly monstrous. Also, the penetration of 256 will give it a little bit of advantage over the 60TP, and it has 330 heat pen compared to the 60TP's 317. Also, those HE rounds hit for 1,200 compared to the 950 that you'll have on the 60TP. This is looking like a very scary tank indeed within that regard. Also, this vehicle has a 180mm caliber gun, meaning that you can overmatch all 59mm plates and less, whereas the 60TP is only going to be able to overmatch 50.8mm plates. So 55mm of side armor up to 59mm of side armor. The BZT-70 is going to do some amazing overmatches there. Now, the gun handling on the BZT-70, it leaves a lot to be desired. 3 seconds aim time is not great. 0.45 accuracy is horrendous. And the moving dispersion, worse than even the 60TP, and the turret traverse dispersion at 0.15. Man, this truly feels like a disgusting heavy tank to play. Luckily, this tank does actually have good gun depression at 8 degrees, like the 60TP, so you have the flexibility to get on a ridgeline and work it. Now onto the mobility, and this literal super heavy tank is very, very slow. 28 forwards and 10 backwards. This thing just lumbers around the battlefield. It weighs 105 tons, so it's actually a tank that you should make sure that you don't get rammed by it, but its power to weight ratio is below 11.5. This is a very slow tank, and it's only the excellent ground resistances that this tank has that save it. However, its turret traverse at 15 degrees a second is more like a mouse or an E100. It's horrendous, and it turns horrifically slowly, and its tank traverse of 20 as well means that this thing takes forever to be able to turn to face its opponents. However, when we look at its armor, we can see why this thing weighs 105 tons. 320 on the front of the hull and 120 on the side. Monstrous. And 300 on the front of the turret and 170 on the side of the turret. This thing is looking very scary indeed. However, when we take a look at the 3D model, you might be a little bit disappointed. And that is because, well, depending on whether you're going to pay to get this tank or depending on whether you want to farm this tank on the battlefield. And that is because it has big weak points on top that even tier 8 heavy tanks can easily penetrate. And even if this vehicle is using all of its gun depression, its weak point is still very exposed from either the left or the right. This also means that while the vehicle is amazing for side scraping, whenever it side scrapes around a corner, that its weak point on top is still going to be exposed. irrelevant of which side, which way this tank tries to side scrape. So you always have an opportunity to penetrate at least a small part of the BZT-70. It's just this thing's going to hit you for 850 every time, so you better try and trade aggressively with it. So with regards to the vehicle's frontal armor, the lower plate is actually really lackluster. 230 for a tier 10 is not great, and it's quite flat as well, so unless it really sticks it round the corner to try and bait you, and 330 heat still can go through this part of the armor when it's around like this, then this thing struggles. One thing that is great about this vehicle, however, is that the tracks are very wide. And so this means that when the vehicle side scrapes outside of those weak points on top, and if you manage to kind of like side scrape with a bit of gun depression as well, it is monstrous that you can manage to hide that lower plate. One word of advice though, if your opponents get below you and they have big caliber guns, 151 millimeters and above, they are going to be able to overmatch this, but most tanks won't be able to. And so that means that this thing, again, just peeking over a ridgeline and trying to make sure that it doesn't expose that lower plate. It doesn't have to worry about getting caught in the flaps here. With regards to the vehicle's side armor, its turret is pretty good until your opponents start to load gold. But the side armor on the hull, it's pretty weak here. It's only 100 millimeters. And apart from having to go through some quite thick spaced armor, this isn't the best of side armors, really. And good penetration HE rounds will be able to obliterate the back of this tank. So all in all, for the armor, for me personally, even though it looks really good on paper, I'd say this thing probably actually has worse effective armor than the 60 TP does. It's different. And when you add to the fact that this thing only gets 2,300 hit points, which is very low for a big, meaty, super heavy tank, which is so slow, it's not actually feeling very good for its durability outside of that best case scenario where your opponents are stupid and don't shoot your weak points on top. To add to this as well, the vehicle has 380 meters view range, which is a little bit disappointing for a tier 10 heavy, and so unless you're willing to use a premium consumable, you might struggle with the amount of view range that you're able to achieve. So crew-wise on this vehicle, it has a 4-person crew, so it'll work perfectly with your BZ-75. For the crew skills on the commander, I would recommend in this order: Brothers, Repairs, Recon, Emergency, Coordination, and Practicality. For your gunner, I would take Brothers, Repairs, then I would take Snapshot, Quick Aiming, Armorer, and then make your decision about whether you want Designated Target or whether you want Deadeye on this tank. For your driver, I'd take Brothers, Repairs, then I would take Off-Road Driving, Engineer, Controlled Impact, and then I'd finish off with Clutch Braking. And for your loader, I'd recommend Brothers, Repairs, then I'd take Intuition, then I'd take Ammo, Tuning, Safe Stowage, and then probably finish it off with Perfect Charge, but you could go for Adrenaline Rush or Close Quarters Combat if you want to be able to pump up the DPM. For my equipment on this tank, I'm personally going to be going with an all-round super heavy build, which will be durability, vents, and an experimental turbo. However, a lot of you will want to use vert stabs on this tank because, of course, the gun handling is just so awful, and you really want to make that 850 alpha damage work. Alternatively, considering this vehicle's got quite low hit points and people aren't mostly going to be shooting this thing in the tracks, you could drop the durability device and use a gun rammer or vert stabs instead. For my second build on this tank, I'm actually going to be dropping the durability device and trying to create a build that will allow this thing to work on a ridgeline. I'm going to be playing with vents, an experimental aiming device which will help both the horrible accuracy and horrible aim time this vehicle has, and a turbo on this vehicle. And again, if you have an experimental turbo, you could drop the regular turbo and use an experimental to be able to improve a little bit of that gun handling. For the field mods on this tank, it's real simple. I personally am going to take the all-terrain suspension because this vehicle is oh so slow without it. Then I'm going to improve the accuracy of this tank. I'm going to improve the view range of this tank. I'm going to take the mobility slot, follow it up by improving the top speed limit of this tank by 2 kilometers an hour, and then finish it off by improving the internal module durability, or you are going to go pop, and this thing loves to get ammo racked. Okay, so let's give the BZT a trial by fire in possibly the worst situation you're going to find yourself in this tank, and that is having to deal with a lot of tier 11s on an open map with an artillery on the enemy team. But as you're going to see, sometimes it doesn't really matter. The vehicle is just going to perform anyway. This big gun really does just pose a world of hurt to even these big tanks on the enemy team. But I tell you what, in the matchups where I played against the tier 8 vehicles, this thing's able to half health them. 850 means if they have 1,700 hit points, you can literally two-shot them at least half the time unless you're low rolling. And that's terrifying. It really is. It's an imposing gun. Possibly one of the most devastating, imposing guns. It is the most imposing gun on any heavy tank in the game. It's kind of like the fear of getting hit by a KV-2 at low tier. It's just KV-2s don't have 330 millimeters of heat penetration. Now, where I found that I had success in this tank was really where I was just up in the faces of my opponents. And so that's exactly what I want to do here. I've got a weak point on top, but as long as I go left and right, it shouldn't really matter too much with them having at least a really easy chance to engage it. So what I love to do in this vehicle is just go side on and just make it so that my weak points are at least going left and right to cause them a little bit of hell. But even though I am using an experimental turbo and vents and I have all the field mods, you'll see that gun handling. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. And the VK just absolutely smashes my weak point. And while he doesn't have 850 alpha damage, he's still got 750. And I really don't want to get hit for 750 too many times. So this BZ-70 has just come and parked in front of me here. And I have to admit, I'm like, okay, mate, what do you want me to do now? You know? I've got the reload. Let me go and play, and let's play together and see what we can do. And that is 906 damage to a Taschenratte. I don't mind being a little bit of meat here for the BZ-79. And to be fair to the guy, nice of him to go over towards the left so that we can both play, rather than we've created some kind of awkward position. And this thing as well, it's actually quite low profile for such a large tank, and so you don't really want to be the person behind your opponents. Luckily, there is no team damage in World of Tanks now. However, otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't want to have one of these things behind me either. So we're going to get forwards and hopefully just find the shot, brutalize, and that reticle, it's... What is there to say, guys? It's like a pineapple in the middle of your screen. And so... a lot of people are going to want to try and like use the gun rammer on this thing, maybe even just drop the durability and just focus on making all of those shells just work. But I can tell you, having played this tank, it probably has the most frustrating gun I think I've ever played with. Now, things are going to get better for this tank, remember? You're seeing me play this vehicle in its most awkward state. The version that you're going to be able to get your hands on this tank on Friday will have that 3-second better reload. I'm playing with 24 seconds reload phase. You're going to be playing with 21. So I'd be reloaded right about now. It's a lot better. It's a huge DPM upgrade. To go from kind of like that 2,100 mark up to 2,400 makes a big difference on this tank. And so I'm trying to take that into account when I'm coming to my conclusion, just my overall vibe about the BZT-70. One thing is for sure, this thing is a juggernaut of juggernauts, and there aren't many tanks that can kind of go into a fight against a Taschenratte and a VKK and so on and so forth. Oh, yeah, don't try and snipe in this thing, that's for sure. And kind of come out on top. Now, I did have a load of great vehicles behind me that were also helping. And I really haven't done that much myself, you know. 3,200 combined is nothing really to celebrate in this vehicle. But this tank just remains. It really does. It's just such a threat. And thank goodness Wargaming didn't decide to give it rockets as well, because if they'd given this thing rockets, man, I think this would have been game-breaking. Oh, Mr. 140. I think that should be enough to be able to deal with him. Goodbye, sweetheart. And now we can get forwards, use this kind of like apocalypse tank. It does feel like it's something out of Command & Conquer Generals, honestly. I feel like I should get some of those voice lines going again, you know. China will grow larger, and all of this. Well, China clearly has grown a lot larger with the release of the BZT-70. This gargantuan kind of sandcrawler of a vehicle. As I said, it's like a T-95 had a baby with a derp gun. And I know I can overmatch up into his flaps there. Just got to find it. And easy peasy. That's the 180mm there, boys and girls. Able to overmatch those 59 and sub-59mm plates with its AP rounds. So definitely don't go full heat in this tank, because what you're going to be able to do with those AP rounds is going to be tremendous compared to if somebody was to only take like full heat in a tank like this. And that's before you even see me trying to fire a few of these HE rounds, right? These HE rounds on this tank, 1,200 damage if you're able to hit one. That's bad enough if you're able to hit any kind of vehicle. They're losing way over half their hit points, unless it's kind of like a tier 10 or a tier 11 super heavy, but you're probably not penetrating those with HE anyway. And so this is just what this tank does. This is what this tank does, boys and girls. 4,500 damage, 800 assistance. Do we get a shot on this STRV at the end of the game? We're just going to have to find out. Come on, baby. Am I loading AP here, hopefully, because I can overmatch pretty much all of that guy's vehicle apart from 2 plates on top. And Mr. STRV, you want some? You want some? You want some? I'll give it to you. There we go. Kaboom, baby. BZT-70 just showing all of its fangs here. All 850 alpha damage of its fangs. What just a truly monstrous tank. It really is. How many times have I said that word in this replay? Probably too many to count. But it pretty much sums up how I feel it's going to be to try and deal with this thing. It's not something you want to engage against in like a straight up fight. So if you were to just take a look at that last replay and think, oh, that's it, this tank looks like it's the most busted thing in World of Tanks history, right? Yeah, but I don't really think it's painting the full picture. Sure, this vehicle is great for when it actually gets to trundle into position, but boy is it slow in getting there. This thing pretty much, you know, maxed out. I could have a slightly better experimental turbo. I have the field mods unlocked. I've got engineer that's boosting up that top speed as well. And I don't think everyone's going to have a KR1 pushing it, but even with the KR1 pushing it, it's like 34, 35. If I was playing a 60 TP in this situation and I had the extra 40 kilometer an hour, it's not 40 kilometer an hour, but the 4 kilometers an hour field mod that you can get there, I would be getting into position way, way, way quicker. With a turbo, I'm kind of going more like 10 kilometers an hour faster than you would do in the BZT-70. This is a very, very slow tank. It's cute. This KR1, I kind of went to the right there to see if maybe I'd like let him past, but no, he didn't want to. It's a nice guy. I should probably say thank you to him a little bit. Maybe if I was on my main account and I kind of actually cared rather than wanting to actually get a real idea of how this vehicle is and how slow it is for all of you for getting into position. But yeah, it took a while. We're 1.5 minutes in and we only got here this quickly because of a KR1 push. But yeah, you just have to look at that gun bloom. You really have to just be sitting still. And even when you are sitting still, even with the field mod to improve the accuracy and the extra accuracy I'm going to be getting from the vents on this tank, it still doesn't feel like it's very useful outside of those short range environments. But whatever. I'm going to ask the chieftain for help here. I'm going to get forwards. I'm worried that there's going to be somebody on this corner, so I want to stay on the inside to not get shot by the TDs at the back. And hello there, 113. Boom, baby. 889, and that's just me and a chieftain that just changed this guy's existence. And whoa, hello. Sidearm actually working out very well there. FE405 fails against me. And I kind of want to go around the corner against this 113 here. I can pretty much go and do some like push-ups or like a few stretches or something in between the reload on this tank. But again, for like the 3rd time this video, I want to clarify that the statistics of this thing will change before Friday. Do I think that it needs the buff? Probably not. I think it's fine in the position that it is, but with the buff, yeah, this thing will become even more scary than it is in the video that I'm presenting today. So again, this thing's just such a good side scraper, and unless my opponents are going to take a chance to be able to hit the weak point on top, I should be fairly good here. FE405 fails to go through me. I feel like I almost half held him there. And then I can turn my attention to going after the KR1. So my KR1 buddy, I'm going to say I'm going to help him up. He gives me a thumbs up. Am I going to give him a thumbs up back? Maybe, possibly. Let the KR1, I'll help him out in this situation. It's me, a chief, and a KR1 going forwards to try and farm up as much as we possibly can. And, oh yeah, baby, let's go. Don't give the belly to this thing, guys. It's very unlikely got 60 millimeters of belly armor. And no tier 11 tank wants to lose 850 on average to a single shot. Man, this thing, dude, the apocalypse tank. Panzer 7 forwards. I've got a AP shell loaded here, which isn't going to be so useful. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to switch to HE. And are you thinking what I'm thinking, YouTube? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And that is, look at me. I'm the derp daddy now. Boom, baby. 1,000 damage. And that's not a high roll. That was pretty much guaranteed. I have 1,200 alpha damage on this vehicle with that HE pen. And what's this Type 71 doing? Oh, come on, dude. You're going to clown me? Oh, he pens me in the lower plate on the move. I think about going for the Panzer 7. And oh my gosh, look at this turret traverse. Look at this turret traverse. Look at this whole traverse. Well, you know what? Thumbs up to the Type 71. He got round, he flanked this vehicle, and he did exactly what you need to do to it. and that is harass it. Don't allow it to dictate the combat. Don't allow it to load the shells that it wants to. Flank it. Look how slow it is with both the hull and the turret. And its hit points, they're not even that good, even with the durability device and all of the field mods on this tank. It doesn't really feel like a super heavy when you start to take big chunks out of its side armor. And so that pretty much sums up this vehicle within that regard. It just feels a little bit cumbersome. It feels a little bit slow. The gun feels a little bit awkward. But honestly, for when you just get into those crunching trading engagements on heavy flanks like you've seen in the last 2 replays, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with tier 11s. This thing trades with the best of them. So before you all jump to the conclusion and think this thing looks like the most bonkers overpowered tank in World of Tanks history, I hear you. From looking at the statistics, my initial impressions were, man, look at this thing. It's got everything in the right area. But what I want to also tell you is how painful this tank can sometimes feel to play. Look at this matchup. The World of Tanks dream, right? I'm a tier 10 dealing with tier 8. I'm on a nice kind of like ridgeline fight here. And to all intents and purposes, this should be like an easy Top Gun, 6,000 damage kind of game, right? Absolutely free farm. Let's go for it. 53 TP gets a shot in, but I'm okay with that because I can come up and trade. And I literally half health him. And not even just like a half health from a high roll, just half health him. Only a tiny little bit of a high roll there. And like, this guy is not happy about this, as you can see. They're not happy about this. Yeah, okay, don't get rammed by a 105-ton tank. And I'm quite happy about that because I don't even have to waste the shell on him. And you know what? I can't blame the 53 TP. And so now I was thinking to myself, all right, I got this, you know? Autoloader here. Oh, whiff. I guess I rushed that shot a little bit. Maybe should have taken a little bit of time. I thought that maybe I could swing the gun a little bit lower with the gun depression, but it just felt so limited and so slow, and I felt like I was going to lose the opportunity for the Progetto to get away. But okay, you know what? We had one miss. It's fine. We'll get him next time, right? I just got to basically try and make sure he misses one time here, turn my tracks to have a little bit more armor, and... okay, fine. Okay. So my AP shell missed. Looks like I hit just on the upper hull, and he was able to depress his gun enough there. I'm going to reload in time and be able to get him here. Now, to be fair, I'm playing a nerfed version of this tank, so you would be able to fire now. But I couldn't be able to do that. Luckily, we get him. But interestingly, he decides to actually do something that I didn't expect, and that's take the fight to me here rather than actually reverse. You know what? That's what you're going to have to do to this tank. It will have a 20-second reload, at best a 17-second reload, even if the vehicle's using a gun rammer. So by taking the fight to this tank, that's probably what you got to do. So we're going to go for it again, hopefully catch the shell. And you could actually see me flick the mouse around there a little bit. I think I let out a little bit of a scream in the household. I think Thor probably, his ears perked up, even though he's got big floppy ears, you know. And yeah, just frustrated. And look, I'm not going to pretend that this is the best game of World of Tanks I've ever played. But what I will tell you is getting double tracked here and thinking that Progetto should be dead, lose my hit points. Going to go for him. I guess I missed his lower plate again. I guess I should be spamming gold. If I fired gold, I'd have gone through his upper hull. Maybe I'm being greedy. Maybe I thought to myself, you know, I'll be okay. I can just not... I don't have to fire gold against these tanks. Yeah, look what they're doing to my lower plate with that Swiss cheese. Oh, exasperating. Okay, I bounced the contender. Now I got this. Yeah, I don't got this. I'm rushing these shots. And so what my big recommendation to all of you is, don't get like Uncle QuickyBaby here. If you allow this tank to start to mess with your mind, you will not be doing very much with this vehicle. That was satisfying, but an unsatisfying low roll of 807. Finally, I managed to get him, and I make a stupid play here, and that is I didn't think the TVP was still there, and he catches me in the side twice with gold. And so, look, I played awful this game. I will fully admit this tank tilted me out in this replay. And this wasn't the only game where this tank tilted me out. And I can tell you guys, for all of the raw firepower that this thing has, with that 850 alpha, with that 2,400 DPM, with the decent penetration this vehicle is going to have, I can tell you these gun handling statistics are so bad that this vehicle, I think, will tilt some of the best of you with how frustrating it can be. It's really a tank that you need to take hits to be absolutely sure that you're going to make this 180mm work. Or if you're anything like me, you'll throw what looked like one of the easiest games of World of Tanks in that last battle. And so, all in all, I want to come to the conclusion about the BZT-70. Do I think it's going to be a good tank? Yes, I think it's going to be a good tank. Do I think it's going to be like the new best all-round apocalypse overpowered vehicle? No, I don't. I think this vehicle, for me personally, is still just a little... It's comparable to a 60 TP. It's a 60 TP with worse gun handling, worse mobility, different armor, but with a bit more firepower. That's what this vehicle is. And so if you want to trade gun handling, you want to trade mobility, and have comparable armor to be able to just gain raw firepower, then the BZT-70 might be the tank for you. However, remember, that's me comparing it to a nerfed 60 TP. And personally for me, I feel like there can be too much of a good thing. And I think this vehicle takes the firepower a little too far, and it has to make sacrifices in a lot of other areas to be able to achieve it. By no means is this a bad tank, though. It's definitely average, if not a good amount above average. But boy, is it frustrating when it doesn't go well. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed my full review of the BZT-70. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about Wargaming putting reward tier 10 tanks inside the Christmas loot boxes? Do you think that's incredibly disappointing that you might get this vehicle when you really wanted to have one of the juicy tier 9 premiums? And what do you think as well about the fact that we're getting more tier 10 reward vehicles now inside loot boxes? At least they're not 3-tier spread loot boxes, right? Personally, for me, my opinion is that tier 10 is really kind of like the old tier 9. And now tier 11 is the top tier, and this is only something that's going to be cemented for the next couple of years. That this is kind of the equivalent of Wargaming putting tier 9 reward vehicles back in the old loot boxes when tier 8 premiums used to be the main thing before they put tier 9 premiums in. I'm a little bit surprised that Wargaming didn't make these premium tanks. I think that there would have been a lot more happiness from the community if there had been. But I think it also shows the fact that Wargaming are not putting tier 10 premium tanks in loot boxes, at least for now. That the game must be at least matching their expectations for the success of 2.0. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.